Welcome to History in Flames, where battles are remembered. Empires rise and fall, the past comes alive in fire and ash. Subscribe and relive the stories that shaped the world. December 7th, 1941. The world was at war. Battles raged across Europe, Asia, and Africa, all changed in one morning at Pearl Harbor. And at the center of America's response was a man in a wheelchair, a leader many had doubted, but one who would prove to be one of the most consequential figures in history. His name was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and his decisions would shape not only World War II, but the entire 20th century. When Roosevelt first took office in 1933, America was broken. The Great Depression had left millions without work. Banks were collapsing. Families stood in bread lines just to eat. FDR spoke to the nation with calm, confidence, and courage. His voice, through his famous fireside chats, reassured a desperate people. He told them, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Through his New Deal programs, Roosevelt built jobs, stabilized banks, and restored hope. But even as America recovered, storm clouds gathered overseas. Hitler had risen in Germany, Mussolini in Italy. Japan was invading Asia. Roosevelt knew the world was heading toward catastrophe. In the late 1930s, most Americans wanted no part of another European war. The trauma of World War I was still fresh. Congress passed strict neutrality laws, but Roosevelt understood the danger. Britain fell. If democracy collapsed in Europe, America would be next. So he walked a careful line, keeping the U.S. officially neutral, but quietly preparing for the storm. In 1940, he pushed through the Lend-Lease Act. The message was clear. America would be the arsenal of democracy. Ships, tanks, planes, and supplies flowed across the Atlantic to Britain and later to the Soviet Union. It was bold, it was risky, and it made Roosevelt the target of fierce critics at home who accused him of dragging America toward war. December 7th, 1941. At dawn, Japanese planes roared over Pearl Harbor, battleships exploded, smoke choked the skies. In just hours, more than 2,400 Americans were dead. The next day, Roosevelt addressed Congress. His words echoed through history. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The chamber erupted with thunderous applause. Within 24 hours, America declared war on Japan. Soon after, Hitler declared war on the United States. The nation Roosevelt had been preparing was now fully in the fight. From that moment, Roosevelt was not just the American president, he became the leader of the Allied cause. He forged close bonds with Winston Churchill and later Joseph Stalin. Together, they coordinated massive strategies, from North Africa to Italy, from D-Day to the island-hopping campaigns in the Pacific. At Casablanca, at Tehran, at Yalta, Roosevelt sat at the table where the fate of nations was decided. His greatest gift was not commanding armies, but commanding people. He managed egos, brokered compromises, and held the Allies together through suspicion, rivalry, and exhaustion. Without a steady hand, the alliance might have fractured. With it, the path to victory was set. On the home front, Roosevelt mobilized America's unmatched industrial might. Car factories became tank factories. Aircraft production soared to thousands per month. Women filled the workforce. Posters of Rosie the Riveter declared, "We can do it." Roosevelt also took painful decisions, the internment of Japanese Americans, a stain on his legacy. Yet his overall leadership transformed America into the greatest arsenal the world had ever seen. By 1944, Allied troops landed at Normandy. American bombers darkened the skies over Germany. The tide of war had turned. But Roosevelt himself was weakening. The weight of 12 years in office, the Depression, and now the global war had ravaged his health. In February 1945, at Yalta, he looked frail, his face lined and tired, yet he pressed on, determined to secure a lasting peace. Just 2 months later, on April 12, 1945, Roosevelt suffered a massive stroke and died in Warm Springs, Georgia. The nation was stunned. He had led them through their darkest hours. He had seen the dawn of victory. But he would not live to see the final triumph. Franklin D. Roosevelt was not perfect. He was ambitious, secretive, sometimes ruthless. But he gave America something far greater than policies or speeches. He gave it hope. He transformed the presidency into the center of global leadership. He showed that words could steady a nation, and that courage could overcome fear. Without Roosevelt, the Allies might not have stayed united. Without Roosevelt, victory might have taken far longer, or not at all, was in the words of Winston Churchill, the greatest American friend we have ever known. And today, his voice, his leadership, and his vision remain a reminder that even in the darkest times, one leader can change the course of history. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is the man who gave America courage in the Depression, the leader who guided the Allies to victory in World War II, a president who, even from a wheelchair, stood taller than most men ever could. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more. Share your thoughts below.